myself, Sandeep Srishan, working as a software engineer in Hyderabad. Today we are going to discuss about Room database. Let's have a brief introduction to Room database. Room is a database layer on top of an SQLite database to store a large amount of persistent data. Room takes care of mundane tasks that you use to handle with an SQLiteOpenHelper. Room, provided by Google, is a part of Android architecture component which helps our development easy. So the question is why we should use Room. In SQLite, there is no compile time verification of raw SQL queries, whereas in Room, there is no chance of exceptions due to queries at runtime. In SQLite, there is a lot of boilerplate code to convert between SQL queries and Java data objects, whereas in Room, it maps the database objects and Java objects without boilerplate code. Next point is SQLite APIs are low level, thus it takes more time and more effort to build the application. Whereas in Room, we can use view model and live data to make the same task easy. The three main components of Room database are the entity, the data access object, and the database. So what is an entity? An entity represents a table within the database. Room creates a table for each class that has entity annotation. The fields in the class correspond to column in the table. Therefore, the entity class tend to be small model classes that don't contain any logic. This is an example for a SQLite table. The table consists of three columns with ID, title, and description. We will be creating a project with this table using Room database. Next component is data access object. Data access objects are responsible for defining the methods that access the database. This is the place we write our queries. All the CRUD operations are written in this class. Next is the database. The database contains the database holder and serves as the main access point for the underlying connection to your application's data. Let's create a Notepad application using Room. For that, we first have to move to the build.gradle file and we have to import these libraries. These are the libraries to be imported to use Room, and we have to add this plugin in order to sync successfully. Once it's synced, we are good to go with coding. Let's create a package with name database. Here, first we are going to create an entity. Let's create a data class for that entity. This is the table that we are going to create in our application. So the columns are ID, title, and description. The ID is the primary key, the title is a text, and the description is also a text. So for that, let's create a data class with ID. So that's it. This is the data class that we are going to create in the table. Once the data class is created, we need to add some annotations here. They are add entity. Let's separate this for better understanding. So the ID is the primary key. So we should annotate at primary key, and it should be auto generated. So let's auto generate it as true. Next is title. Title should have a column at column info with column name, title. Next is description, same as column info with name, description. So the entity is created successfully. The next is data access object. For that we are going to create an interface. So the interface should be having an annotation with @tao. Let's create CRUD operations here. They are insert, create, read, update and delete. So let's create function insert node with param for update. Also we should create like this, update, delete, and to get all the nodes you should write function get or nodes, which should be a list of nodes. Now we should add annotation on each of these functions. So for the insert node we should add at insert. For the update, at update. For the delete, at delete. As simple as that. And for the getting all the nodes we should add a query. So let's create query for that. The query should be select star from nodes entity. That's it. Now we have created the data access object successfully. Next is to create a database class. Let it be notepad room database. It should extend room database. Let it be an abstract class. We will create a data access object here. Now we should create a companion object here. Here, volatile is used for singleton instantiation. Let's create an instance for this. Once we have written the instance here, we are going to add some annotation on top of the class. Here, a database annotation should be added with parameters entities, which should be the table name. So here we have nodes entity here. That's it. Next is the version. Let it be 1. That's it for now. So we have successfully created the room database instance. Here, the notepad room database is the room database name. You might be wondering why this synchronized key is used. Here, it is used to log simultaneous instance creation and double check only single instance is created at a time. This is the UI that I have created. One which shows the list of nodes, and the next, on clicking on the plus button, we can add new node. So let's have a look on the XML. Here we have added a recycler view for listing out the nodes and added a floating action button in order to add new node. Once the user clicks on the floating action button, it will move to the screen in which user can add new nodes. Let's create an object for the room database. Let it be null. Now I have created an instance for the room database in the activity main. Once this is done, we can get the list of nodes. So once I get the nodes list, I will be passing into the recycler view. Now I have written the node list in the onCreate. I will be writing this code in the onRestart as well, so the data gets refreshed every time I switch to this activity. So we have completed the main activity. Now we can move on to the details page. We have to create the instance in this activity as well. So I'll be copying this instance. So we have got the instance in the details page as well. So on the button save, we have to save into the database. We have to write the code here. For this, we first have to create a note object. Let the first value will be null. It will be auto-generated in the room database as we have given as primary key and auto-generate equal to true. That's it. Here also I have added an option to update the already existing node. As you can see in the main activity adapter class, on clicking the item, I will be passing that node entity item to the details page. So in that case, the button will be changed to update. So we should handle that as well in this button. So this is the selected node. It is null by default. So if there is any bundle exists, then the selected node will be the entity. So if it is null, we will be inserting the node to the database, and if it is not, then we will update the node. We have the option to delete the node as well, or in that case we will write database dot data access object dot delete node. It should be small letter for proper syntax. Delete node. That's it. Now it's done. Let's run the application. As you can see, the app got crashed. Let's see the logs. This is an illegal state exception. It cannot access database on the main thread since it may potentially lock the UI for a long period of time. So in that case, we should add one more point. Allow main thread queries. On adding this point, room allows to run the queries on the main thread. But this should not be done while deploying. This can be used only for development purpose, else the app may crash. Let's rerun the application now. Yeah, now it works perfectly. Let's add a node. Now the items is saved in the database. You can see this in the database inspector as well. As you can see, the ID is 4, title is grocery, and the description is tomato, potato, etc. as we have typed. That's in the description. We can add one more. Yeah, it's added. As you can see, the table is updated with new data. Let us try to update and delete the node. For that, first we need to click on one node. So the node's entity object is passed to the next activity, and so we are getting all the ID, title and description here. Let me add one more. So it's added successfully. Now let us try to delete this. It also works. Thanks for watching.